Welcome to the audiobook All the Right Reasons. The foreword is narrated by country music superstar Colin Ray. The book is narrated by the author, Kevin Guest. Kevin is the CEO of USANA Health Sciences, a global billion-dollar health and nutritional company. All the Right Reasons, 12 timeless principles for living a life in harmony.
Hello, this is Colin Ray. How many CEOs do you know whose only goal in life was to play in a rock and roll band? As a young man, Kevin Guest desired one thing above everything else. He wanted to perform his music in a band and become famous doing it. Music was his passion and goal, and he worked hard to make it real. Just when the dream was within his grasp, when he could literally reach out and touch it, he followed a divine prompting and gave up his quest. Taking another path, he ended up as the CEO of a highly successful, publicly traded international company. But as you'll see in this book, Kevin doesn't care as much about his title as he does about doing good to others, improving lives, and making a difference in the world. Other than music, that's what really gets Kevin excited. He's the perfect CEO for a company like USANA Health Sciences.
Reason number 6. Why did the professor ask his students to learn the cleaning lady's name? Because nothing is more important than relationships.
On the first day of class, one of my college professors wrote on the board, "Nothing is more important than relationships." To a young college kid, it seemed a strange way to start the class and maybe a little unnecessary. At that point, grades seemed more important than relationships. Learning seemed more important than relationships. Graduating seemed a lot more important than everything else. I spent hours studying for the final exam, but on test day, our professor surprised us. Quote, "The final exam has one question. What did I write on the board the first day of class?" End of quote. More than 30 years later, I still remember my professor and that class. Nothing is more important than relationships. There's a story of a young college student whose professor gave his class a pop quiz a few weeks into the semester. The student breezed through the test until he got to the last question. Quote, "What is the name of the woman who cleans this building?" End of quote. The student wondered if the question was a joke. He'd seen the cleaning woman several times during those first weeks of school quietly going about her business, making sure the halls and rooms were clean for all the students. She was tall with dark hair in her mid-50s, but other than that, the student hadn't paid much attention to her. Why would he know her name? The student stewed for a while, then handed in the test with the last question blank. One bewildered student asked if the test would count toward their grade. Quote, "Absolutely," the professor said. "In your careers, your paths will cross with many people. They all matter and deserve your attention and care, even if all you do is smile, say hello, and learn their names. Few things are more important to people than being called by their first name." End of quote. It didn't take everyone in the class long to learn who the cleaning lady was. Her name was Dorothy. I came to understand the importance of relationships not only from my professor, but also by watching my parents. Mom and Dad had many close friends, and some of those close friendships spanned decades. Maybe their concern for others was nurtured by growing up in a small town where people watched out for each other. Maybe they saw how vital friendships are to a rich and fulfilling life. Dad was first to help a neighbor who needed him, and he often took his boys along. He helped friends build and repair homes, helped when the church needed an addition, helped people with all sorts of repairs. As his sons, we were expected to go along with him. He was an extraordinary example of service. My dad always focused on how he could give instead of what he could get. His greatest desire was to do good. I didn't especially like helping Dad with his projects, but he taught me a valuable lesson about service and relationships I will never forget. My parents cherished and nurtured close relationships, and the high priority they placed on those relationships stuck with me. Few things are more important to me than my relationships, both within the company and in other areas of my life. I want you to remember the Dorothy principle. Nothing is more important than relationships. Does your family know how important they are to you? What have you done lately to show them? We all work hard to achieve success, to arrive at some pinnacle of achievement, to have the perfect house, perfect family, perfect body. In the process, we fill our lives with stuff. Most people have more food, faster cars, fancier clothes, better health, higher incomes, bigger houses, and more conveniences than their ancestors had 100 years ago. Yet according to the World Database of Happiness, we are not any happier than previous generations. Studies show once we have enough income to comfortably meet our basic needs, additional wealth has little impact on our happiness. What we are really searching for is inner peace, and many of us don't know how to find it. People matter more than things. I partly measure success by how many people's lives are improved as a result of what I do and by the quality of my personal, one-on-one relationships. To develop true inner peace, you must understand what holds real meaning in your life: relationships, making a difference, and living authentically.
The Dorothy Principle. Nothing is more important than relationships. All the Right Reasons. 12 Timeless Principles for Living a Life in Harmony.